goodness me, what a shot!
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. Chris here, joined by Alex, and I think you've all been waiting for it all week. The Filip Jicha podcast. We teased you earlier in the week with a bit of beach handball. Really, we've just been waiting for busy Alex here to get himself back home from his work trip, settled in, a good night's sleep, and ready to rant about Filip Jicha. It's been a topic for us over the last few years, whether he should be in that job, whether he's doing a good job, whether he'll continue. Finally, Filip Jicha left THW Kiel at the start of this week, replaced fairly quickly by Børge Lund. And later in the podcast, we are going to speak to Björn Pazen about that decision, giving us a bit of insight into the mindset over in Germany and what the future holds for the club. But Alex, I feel like the time is now ready to hand over the baton to you and let you let rip on Filip Jicha's time with Kiel.
Yeah, I think I've been doing it for the last couple of seasons, so I feel like I don't feel like I have anything to get off my chest here. Like it's, if anything, the way I'm looking at it is a little bit of, I feel like it's a little bit sad for Jicha, the way this has all ended, and I think that last season, like finishing 6th, is truly a sign that kind of the whole dressing room, the whole club had given up on him. That, you know, you could have probably ended it a little bit sooner, as I'd been advocating, and we would have had like a happier end to Jicha's time, even kind of the way it all happened at the start of this season, you know, that giving him the extension. Hey, he's got a nice little payout, I presume, to set him up for a little while. So fair play to Jicha for getting that. Fair play to Elias Elves and Ashipagotu for getting him that contract with his performance in the first couple months of the season. But I think, like, when you look at Jicha's time and actually Kiel's last kind of 10 years, we've actually gone through a very similar cycle as we had with Giselsen, where if you remember, like when Jicha took the job, the squad, like Kiel, had also gone through a historic run of poor performances. It was kind of 4 seasons without a Bundesliga title after 2015 or 2016, when they did, you know, they had that run, which was the greatest team of all time. It was the team that went unbeaten. It's the team that kept winning with Giselsen. It had the superstars in kind of Omaye, Narcisse, Palmerson, all of that team. And then they hit a rut for about 4 seasons. And I don't think we didn't have this podcast during that time, but I would say we would have been having the same conversations that we were having with Jicha, where it's, you know, the team had started transitioning, performances were poor, and they needed a change. And when Jicha came in, he started off amazingly. And I think he picked up a team in transition that had already gone through years and years of pain. He picked them up when they finally had like become something a little bit more steady and got those amazing results. You know, the 2019-20 season with COVID, of course, but he got a Bundesliga title shortened by COVID. He got a Champions League title shortened by COVID, and then followed that up with another Bundesliga title next year, and then one in 23. So there was like this peak under Jicha was special, and it came at a time after a difficult period. And I think we might see history repeating itself for Kiel here, where there's a squad that has aged. The new stars at the time were Niklas Landin. Domagoj Duvnjak was really coming into his peak. You had Stefan Weinhold, Wiencheck, and Pekler all in their peak. That was the squad that Jicha inherited, and a lot of those players were almost, it was his teammates, but like he was the experienced head at the end of his career, with the likes of Duvnjak, Wiencheck, Pekler as the young players coming in. And it worked when he came in, got a little boost of like young players like Sagosen and Bilic coming in. And that just like it supercharged his team. It completed the transition it had been going through. And they had this like top core for about 3 years that really, really did well. And you have to you can't forget that, this is still, he has 7 years at the club. Essentially, most of the success came at the start with 3 Bundesliga championships, a cup in that time, a Champions League, a bunch of Super Cups, and then he had that last cup in 2025. So not a bad return, but 4 years of consecutive poor results is, in a time of transition again, kind of leads you to a place where you just lose the dressing room. There's no coming back, and that's what happened this season.
Yeah, I mean, mentioning the titles over these years, and he mentioned it himself in his post about it. 8 years as a player, 8 years as part of the coaching team, the most successful THW Kiel man in history. And it's a great legacy in itself to leave behind. And for all of the questions about him with the team, particularly over, I think really the last 3 years have been the main kind of form of the questions about him and his decision making and just general leadership of the team. One of the first things I asked Björn in the chat coming up, because sadly you're on an airplane, I said if Alex Kulesh was here, he would lead with the question of why sacking him now after extending the contract just a few months ago. Do you think that it was purely because he has lost the dressing room that it's come right now?
I think so. I think that last spell of the season where Kiel had a European place in their pocket and just stopped playing is it goes beyond just the general, the squad had injuries this year, of course, the skipper and the right back Madsen, both being out all season, that's significant. But the way they just kind of faltered, and the squad is completely different now. This is a completely new squad. There's very few remnants of the Jicha winning squad. Like the people who remember that Kiel is a winning club. Like there's very few of them under Jicha. Like you literally just have kind of Duvnjak and Reinkind left in there, but everyone else, that winning mentality, the cohesion that led to success under Jicha, the players that were there, they're all gone, and it's all new players in there now, and they don't remember what it's like to win. They've never won under Jicha, and in their mind, they're sitting there like that. They're now the top dogs in the squad, like the likes of Erik Johansson and the skipper, and this is kind of going back to this kind of transition that we talked about. So like Giselson transitioned, it took a while to transition, and then Jicha took on a squad. The transition for Kiel under this current squad happened in 23-24 when Niklas Landin, Sander Sagosen, and Miha Zarbets, 3 senior club players, left and were all pretty much poached. It's not like they weren't willingly these were all players at the top of their career. They weren't really willingly let go. It was kind of, there was a little bit of a financial crunch in Kiel at the time that meant that like those players had to leave. They were replaced by Erik Johansson, the skipper, and Van Gerard at the time. But is new life. You took out really experienced players, brought in these young stars, and the players that remained were all getting old, like the Wienczeks, the Pecklers, the Weinholds, the Duvniaks. They kept it chugging along for a while the new players got up to speed. And like Erik Johansson and the skipper now in this season are the de facto leaders. They are the absolute leaders of the squad. Many of that main core has retired. There's a new life into the squad, but none of these players remember what it was like to win under Jicha. And, they no longer have 4 or 5 senior club members in the dressing room telling them, hey, no, this is going to come together. I stand by this coach because I've won everything with him, both as a player and as a coach. There's no one there anymore that has that except for Duvniak, and quickly degrades.
Duvniak, Reinkind, Pekeler, Damke as well. I don't know if we can include Andy Wolf in this because he's recently come back after his first sell. There is players there, but it's not the majority of the team anymore. And I want to just ask you before we go and chat with Björn, looking at the squad that's going to be ready for next season now. We talked about players who were poached a few years ago. The players that have left now, it's a very different kind of situation. Magnus Landin didn't want to leave, it seems, but he's off to Aalborg. Nikola Bilic, he's probably didn't want to leave either. He's been sent off to Switzerland, to Kriens Luzern. Benze Imre, for some reason, has gone back to Veszprem, and Peter Overby probably didn't want to leave either, but he's been sent off to Wetzlar. It's a different batch of players that have left. Players coming in now as well. Kuster's coming in, Makritz is coming in. Really exciting. Fischer the year after is coming in on the line. And so you've got a completely different looking team. And, Jicha mentioned this a little bit in his post as well. Like, he spent so many years in his mind finding solutions and coming to compromises with the club, dealing with injuries. And now you've got this team together that doesn't have to worry about playing European League next season, is ready to give it a good go, and he won't be there. That's got to be highly frustrating from Filip Jicha's point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be frustrating, and I think they do have a good squad, but it's a squad that is primed to just take on another life. It's really rare to see squad transitions. Like one coach, and especially these days in any sport really, to go through kind of full squad transitions and have another team built up and have this another success cycle. It's rare. It's difficult to achieve, and I think the Kiel board really wanted that for Jicha. They trusted him with it. They gave him a new contract. And then they finished 6th. And there's really nothing you can do when a squad like the one that is here, put together, probably the biggest budget, one of the biggest budgets in all of world handball, falters so badly. So it's unfortunate. There's injuries that played into it, but I think it's good for Kiel in the long run to get out of the cycle. And Jicha's he's given those players like the skipper and Erik Johansson, I think, are real leaders now, and you have to give it to Jicha. It took time, but they stepped up, and he's built them into better players. They have a better squad around them, and ultimately they need to figure out their defense that's still been an issue for years, but maybe Custer can be a big help with that. It will be nice to see him. I think the other thing is just the quality of the Bundesliga has continued to rise and rise. So like Magdeburg, well, Füchse Berlin could be an absolute disaster next year with losing players and now Niels Lichtlein out for a while. But hey, maybe that's the opportunity for Kiel. But there's an opportunity there, and Borgelund will set up. You know, it happened all very quickly. He's going to have a full summer to build this new squad, so I think that will be something that, he'll thank Jicha for his job and the sacrifice he made in the last couple of years.
All right, well, I'm getting Arne Slot vibes from this whole.
There's a little bit there. I feel it as well.
Yeah,
you know, it's not Alex Ferguson handing over to David Moyes. It's more Arne Slot picking it up from Jurgen Klopp.
Well, let's see. We'll get a bit of insight now from the German side as we chat to Björn Pazen in a sweltering attic office in Germany. Joining us to talk about the movers and shakers over in THW Kiel, our very own expert in Germany, Björn Pazen, sweating away there in his office. Lovely you could take some time.
Hi, Chris.
Great to have you on. And let's dive straight into it, shall we, Björn? Big news earlier this week, Filip Jicha departing the club after 16 years, 8 years as a player, 8 years as a coach. His successor announced pretty quickly after that. We'll get into that in a moment. But if Alex Kulesh was here, which sadly he's not because he's on a flight right now, his first question would be, why did it take so long to get rid of Filip Jicha?
Yeah, the interesting fact with Filip Jicha is that they extended his contract for 2 years only some months ago. So when you saw Kiel's start of the season, it was brilliant. They were almost winning the Super Cup against Füchse. They lost it after penalty shootout. They had a great start, I think, with 5 wins in a row. And Shipagoto was on his best ever in Kiel, and he was the force that was driving him. And then knowing that Gonzalo Perez de Vargas will come back latest in January, he came back a little bit earlier, then they looked like a real contender for clubs like Magdeburg, Flensburg or Füchse. So, and in winter, they extended the contract, which was expiring by 2 years. In between, already a lot of injuries had happened. Later on, even more were followed. But when you see the result of Kiel in the last quarter of the season, this was really, they lost everything they could win. They could not win that much anymore, but they lost everything. And yes, Alex's question is something that they are discussing also in Kiel, that some people had said you do have to do it earlier. You have to jump on the brake. Others said no, a new team will be built with Dom Makuch and Julian Köster. And so there was always some sayings that is Schilagi, the sports director, able to sack his good friend and colleague Filip Jicha. So there were a lot of question marks in Kiel. And so maybe they had waited for the Kieler Woche, the biggest sailing event on earth, which started last week. So everybody in Kiel is now focusing on sailing ships and boats and things like this. Maybe they waited for this moment to come that they did this decision.
Trying to hide the news. As you said there's a lot of speculation going on. Filip Jicha himself in a statement saying, naturally, I'm disappointed that the decision has turned out this way. People may speculate about the reasons, but I'm leaving it at that. And then he follows for another few paragraphs about what he hoped would happen. But he's leaving us to speculate. What are the speculations that you've heard? Because, I mean, there must have been a strong reason to extend that contract in the first place, because we've had a few years now where it has been an on and off question about him, let's say over the last three years at least, whether he would continue. Maybe even a little bit of a surprise last summer that he continued. But why make the contract extension in the first place?
So in the end, Kiel is always looking for results and trophies. So last season they became German Cup winner. They took one title, they took a trophy, but they missed the Champions League for because of the result in the league. So I think they said, okay, we'll restart because some injured players were coming back, like Pekela was supposed to be back in autumn. Then a lot of other things that could make them hope that they could have a proper season. But early in the season, it looked well. But then I would say the speculations or the reasons behind it was that they believed with the new arrivals they will have, namely Makuch and Köster, and with Gonzalo Perez de Vargas coming back, they would be the stronghold that they are. So the end was Kiel lost so many home matches as never before, and they had some poor away performances also. So, but the Kiel fans, they never. You can win in Flensburg, but when you lose at home against Eisenach or Wetzlar, teams like this, and Stuttgart and Leipzig, then the fans are getting angry, the sponsors, and the ambitions of the team. So I would say that when they extended the contract, they had the belief that it could change, and they wanted to send the signal out to all those people who said you have to change the coach. No, we stick to the coach, and we keep THW Kiel running and getting it better from the next season on with some bigger names. But exactly right after or even before, main players like Emil Matzen or Shipagotu later, Pekela before, and all others, they had injuries. I think that in the end, if they score 2 more goals against Melsungen in the final of the EHF finals in Hamburg, and then they win the trophy, and then they go to the Champions League. I don't think that they would have went separate ways with Filip Jicha, because then they have reached one of their season goals, qualifying for the Champions League. So I would say this thing and what happened later in the matches against Wetzlar and at home against Lemgo in the last 2 league matches, there was no. The number of people were going lower and lower, which were supporting Jicha as the upcoming coach. So I think it was this classic thing that in sport is the result what counts. And when you see the last 3 years, when you mentioned it, in the last 3 seasons, Kiel finished 2 of 3 without a trophy, and this is not what they want to have.
No, absolutely. Do you feel that he's a little bit unlucky then, the way that the second half of the season has gone, when we consider how strong they looked at the beginning with Shipagotu and the incredible form he was in, the injuries to him and Madsen, and just like a constant, it seems to be a constant issue with Kiel, with this lack of luck with injuries, something that Jicha himself in the statement also referred to. Do you feel like he's been unlucky there, if it's a matter of 2 goals in a European League final, to hold your job or not? It feels a little bit harsh.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I would say one of the main points of the season was this injury of Emil Matzen. And at first they were thinking that he returns after some weeks, then after some months, and now it's even unclear whether he can play handball again, because nobody knows exactly how severe this injury is. And then when you see on the right back position, Matzen was number 1, and Reinkind was supposed to support him. Then also Reinkind got some injuries or matches that he missed. And then when the number 1 and number 2 of this position are out, and mainly Matzen was a key player of the last season, and then Johansson was injured in between also. Billig was not in the form that he played before. So then when you see how with which players they played, they had the 37-year-old Duvniak. He had to play in some matches for 60 minutes, and he was supposed to play 30 minutes. And then you put this young Rasmus Ankermann, 18-year-old 19-year-old player who played some great matches, but he is not used to have this responsibility in a club like Kiel. And then when you see with which players they had to play, this was really unlucky for Jicha. I would say with Matzen playing a full season and Shipagotu remaining almost in the form of the start, they would have managed to get one of their goals. Maybe in the cup final, maybe in the EHF League, European League final. Not in the Bundesliga, because definitely Magdeburg and Füchse were stronger. So when you see Jicha's heritage of the last season, they were the only team which did not lose against Magdeburg. So they took a draw and they beat Magdeburg, that they took 3 points in 2 matches. So if you see something really good, so they were the only team in German competitions except the Cup Final Four which managed to beat Magdeburg.
As I mentioned before, 8 seasons as a player, 8 seasons as a coach of this team. When I saw that, I was kind of surprised. 8 years have really flown by, it seems. I think it caught me a bit by surprise that he's been coach for that long. How do you think his legacy and this 8-year period will be looked back on? I mean, he has won titles. He's won the strangest Champions League title that I think we'll ever have, but it counts all the same. It seemed like a period of time for me where Kiel were struggling to keep up with the evolving handball world in some ways, and always kind of on the verge of having another breakthrough.
Exactly. So when we talk about 8 years, he was the assistant coach of Alfred Gislason before. Gislason left in 2019, and then Jicha became the head coach. And this was the turning point. They built him up and he was part of the team. And when you see also this construction with Christian Sprenger, another former player, they always want to count on former players. The heritage of Jicha is really that it looked like the rest of the world got stronger and Kiel really tried hard to catch up, but never managed to do so. When you see the last 5 years, Magdeburg was constantly number 1 or 2 in the league. Kiel managed to be ahead once. Füchse got stronger. On international base, you see a team like West Brom, they struggle in the same way. They always try to win the Champions League and they don't make it to Cologne. And in German league, you could really see in the last years again that any team can beat any team. And this is what Magdeburg cleverly did. They did not give a defeat at the lower teams. They gave 1 point at Erlangen. But the thing, it looked really like Kiel struggled to be on top of those top teams. And with the players they signed, they had good signings, of course. It took for Skipper Goto, it took some time. Bence Imre was quite good, but he wanted to go back to Hungary. So, and there were some players who underperformed in the last years, like Nikola Bilic. He never managed to, when you see in which form he arrived in Kiel, and he had struggled a lot with injuries and things like that. So, and there was no player where you could say who left Kiel and became stronger after. But also those players who were in Kiel, there was not really a huge improvement. And this is what you always can say, the development of players done by Jicha and Sprenger, it did not work well as they wanted to have it. So the thing is that when you see how Shipagoto improved at the beginning of the season, he had a great preparation, but somehow he's out with injury. You see how Emil Madsen came from GOG and he started well. So, but you had a lot of ups and downs with the players, mainly caused by injuries with Johansson or Bilic or Reinkind. Then Pekela was out for 6 months. So there were a lot of key players injured, and it was hard for them to find the old form.
And so that brings an end to Filip Jicha's time there. We didn't really get any time to speculate on who might be the successor. Already the same day that Filip was cast aside, the rumours were pretty strong that it was going to be Børge Lund. There were some speculations before that as well in the media about Xavi Pascual potentially heading over from Veszprém. So it seems like this was an ongoing thing from the club. They were already preparing for the next one before Filip Jicha was actually cast aside. What do you think of the appointment of Børge Lund as the head coach now?
Just when you mentioned Xavi Pascual, there had also been these rumors of Talan Tushebayev that he might succeed on Filip Jicha, and because he speaks German and also things like this. But then he announced that in the next season he will not coach a club team as he's coach of the French team now. So this Xavi Pascual, I think when you read the reaction of Veszprém, I don't think there was any speculation or any connection or any negotiation with them. So yeah, when you look at Børge Lund, it continues the story of former players. He played for Kiel. He won the Champions League with them. He was 3 times German champion. He won 6 trophies in 3 years. When you look back, this was the golden era of THW Kiel when they were unbeatable in Bundesliga almost. Before Rhein-Neckar Löwen and Flensburg took the trophies and before Magdeburg and Füchse followed them. So he is still a symbol of these good old times, I think. Like Jicha was as a player, of course. And I think when you see on the job that Börge Lund has done in the last years, first as assistant coach and then of head coach in Elverum, he became Norwegian champion. He's good in finding talents, or not only in Norway. When you see, for example, Erik Johansson, who now plays in Kiel, he went to Elverum and developed there in a real good way. So I think they hope to develop those players more than Jicha did. So in the end, Börge Lund is experienced as a player and a coach. And he speaks German, and this is the old saying, he knows the club, he knows the city, he knows the team. So some say, why don't you go for someone else who is completely out of this former THW Kiel staff or coaches? But others say, if you only have now 6-8 weeks to get the team ready for the season, it's better to know someone who speaks the language, who I think he still knows where the dressing room in the Ostseehalle is, so he will find it. Also, they have a new training camp in the meantime. But I don't know if what would have been the options. So what have been the options when you see there was this huge speculation of this coaches roulette, and so Melsungen announced that Parondo stays for 1 more year. Sievert is the advisor of Parondo in Melsungen, so if Parondo leaves earlier, the advisor could step in earlier. So Flensburg announced that Pajovic remains coach for 1 year. So there were a lot of speculations about coaches leaving, coming and going. And so I think now this carousel is stopped now. Yeah. And in the end, I don't know which options THW Kiel had, but I think this Börge Lund story is something the fans and the sponsors know him well. So they don't have to adapt, and they know what they get. So this is clear. And the only thing is, what I heard from some people is that Julian Köster came from Gummersbach to Kiel because he wanted to be coached by Filip Jicha. But you, as a professional sportsman, you never know who will be your coach next season. Exactly. So, but Julian Köster will definitely bring Kiel ahead. And Domen Makuch, when you see now you signed the MVP of the Champions League Final Four, of course, the signature was written under the contract much earlier. But this is a good start, I would say, when you come to a new club. So, and they're ambitious. They get Justus Fischer, the German line player from Hanover, in 27. So there is what they call it. They have this permanent transition in Kiel. Every year, one key player is leaving, some others are coming, and maybe it works now with a younger coach, but also experienced coach to be successful with this transition.
Yeah, and his success in terms of finding and developing talents in Elverum, I think, is quite impressive, and probably suggests, where, as you mentioned before, where Jicha has failed a little bit. He's been given these young talents the Kiel of the past, where they could kind of pick the Galacticos and sign them, was no longer the case. They had to get some players that maybe weren't quite at the level needed, but had the talent to do so. So interesting that they are bringing someone who has a bit of a track record with it. Only a 2-year contract, though, I've read, until 2028, maybe playing things a little bit safe. But overall, you have to say, with the players on the way in, with the bounce of a new coach, and having a season where there's no distraction of European handball. I know there was a lot of talk about missing out on the European League being, the worst season they've had, a disaster. But I guess for a club like Kiel, it's Champions League or nothing, really. And this is a great opportunity for them to take advantage of a kinder schedule.
So at first, there's one interesting fact that belongs to THW Kiel these years also. They signed ready-made players, they signed stars and so on. And their youth program they had to have one because of the license, but there was not that big success in their youth. So when you see now the under 18, under 19 and under 17 teams of THW Kiel, both were in the German finals this season. So once they lost against Magdeburg, once I think they lost against Füchse Berlin, but they made it to their first ever finals. What happened never before was that the youth coach of the year comes from THW Kiel. So there is a big change now. I would say that they count on bringing on talents. Of course, it's headed by Klaus-Dieter Petersen, but all these players, they're going to Alten. Usually they went to Altenholz, to their farm team, and never returned to THW Kiel. Now they even play with 18, 19 years. They play in the first team in crucial matches of Bundesliga and European League. So this is a change which happened in Kiel, and maybe Börge Lund is exactly because of his experience with young players in Elverum the right person. But coming back to your question, yeah, when you see Kiel always announced every season without Champions League costs them 1.5 million euros, something like this. So to be honest, when you play in the European League and don't win the competition, the average amount you earn is not that high. So first thing, you only can focus on national competition, so mainly Bundesliga. Second, you don't have to travel to cities, which you first have to check on the map, and with the next airport 2 hours away. Definitely, the European League will be much stronger and better next season, but you can focus on this, and the players have more time to rest. I know they don't want to rest. They want to play Champions League, of course, but maybe this season helps them. I give an example with Gummersbach. They played 2 years ago. They played European Cup and Bundesliga, European League and Bundesliga, and they went down to 8th position in Bundesliga. Last season, they played only Bundesliga. They finished 4th, and they were close to even dream of Champions League. So you see in this perspective that it can help your players to have some more rest days when you don't have this routine of playing 2 matches every week from September to May. So maybe this could help. And from the, I would say, financial perspective, if you don't play Champions League and you don't play European League, makes no difference for the club. But of course, when you see 30 years or something, 32 years, they have been part of European Cup competitions and not this next season without THW Kiel. I would say this is a good time to make a transition.
A good opportunity for them to see if they can take advantage with the new squad. Any thoughts on Jicha's future now? He said he's going to take some time to heal and recharge and maybe come back. Do you see a future for him in the Bundesliga, or do you think he might have to go elsewhere? A national team job maybe, but you think he'll stay in the game?
I definitely say he stays in the game. So the first thought I had is one of his best friends is Daniel Kubeš, and he's currently one of 2 coaches of the Czech national team. So definitely they would welcome him with open arms in the Czech Federation.
The 3 Musketeers.
The 3 Musketeers for the Czech team, and especially when you also know the president is Ondřej Strahala. He also played together with Kubeš and Jicha, so they know each other quite well. So this was the first thought I have, that he might go there. I don't think that he's a coach who now says, okay, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman are waiting. I would say he stays in Germany, but has an eye on the Czech national team, and maybe there will be a double function that if any coach is sacked, that they find out there's still the name Jicha, and you never know how they finish the contract, if he got his money right now or if he's officially paid until end of 2028. So this is what you have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. Before we let you go then, and I know you got some holidays coming up next week in Croatia, which is very exciting, but looking at the other aspect of Europe, you mentioned the European League is going to be stronger next season, the Champions League in a new format as well. The draw is tomorrow as we are recording on a Thursday. But what are your thoughts on the format for this coming Champions League season and the 24 teams that have been included?
I have different thoughts about it. Definitely, it's a good chance that you have more teams in the Champions League and finish with this playing system that you play 14 weeks to execute 2 teams outside and 1 of each group you knew before, and was only which team finished 6 or 7. So it's better to have these more teams and a different playing system. But if we talk about the playing system, I always say, if you want to explain a playing system, you have to do it in one sentence to people of outside your sport. And when you look at the new Champions League playing system, you need a DIN A4 paper at least to explain everything, how it works. And 12 teams go down to the European League, and then you have a main round, and then you have playoffs, and 2 more teams go to the European League. Finally, it remains the same from the quarterfinals. This is a good news that there's no change, but it's hard to explain. But to be honest, I think that especially other teams now, when you see those teams who receive the upgrade, it's good. That I would always say the Swiss champion for me is a team, regardless if it's Schaffhausen or Greens Luzern now, who should play in the Champions League. So you have a third French team, you have a newcomer from Germany with MT Melsungen, and it will be interesting how they will experience their first season. I would say it's good, and the thing which counts most for me is that the European League hopefully gets thrilling, and the participants for the final tournament, they are not as set as before, I would say, because you have 12 teams coming down, in total 14 teams coming down from Champions League, and this will be interesting to see how they influence the European League. So if you see the whole package, it's good. But if you see how to explain the people, the playing system, it's a little bit complex.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll both have plenty of practice. You writing the previews and reviews, and me trying to do it in commentary over the first weeks of the season. But I like that it's groups of 4 though as well. It means, there's a little bit more jeopardy for the bigger teams than before. When it's those big groups of 8 over 14 weeks, as you said, the things will average out. Teams like Kielce, even Magdeburg seem to be in trouble in recent seasons halfway through, but then, of course, there was no danger. Here, you lose a dodgy away match in Belgrade, and then all of a sudden, you could be in a bit of trouble. And it means the lower teams as well, with that backup of the European League, potentially, they're playing with a bit of freedom. So I think there could be some interesting things to look out for there. We'll see how the draw unfolds. But for now, Björn, thanks a lot for your time, and enjoy the Croatian coast.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And let's see whether West Brom will make it in the new playing system or not to Cologne.
With Emil Nielsen, undoubtedly.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, ciao.
Thanks, Björn. Take care, mate. Thank you to Björn. We wrapped up there talking about the Champions League, which we will delve into now, because we're recording this after the draw has been made, the magic of podcast editing. But we did touch on a little bit of Lund, Birger Lund coming in, and his take a little bit on these younger players who have, as you said before the chat with Björn, Alex, have taken over a bit of a leadership role, but there's a feeling that he hasn't been able to develop them in the way that was needed for the club, and that's maybe where Birger Lund coming in is a vital cog in this, because he's, whether it's him or the club Elverum, have a good reputation of getting players who are kind of fresh talents and taking them into transitioning them for a higher level. Usually in Elverum's case, it's then signing for other clubs with Kiel. The idea, I guess, will be to take them all the way to the very top. So we'll see if he's able to do that. But with the players coming in, that seems to be also maybe a bit more of a realistic look at where Kiel are now as a club. I mean, this has been a discussion as well. They don't have the same spending power as before. They're trying to work their way to the top, not with ready-made talents, but players that still need a bit of development. Kind of ironic saying that now, seeing as Domen Makwitz is joining the club as Final Four MVP, but you know what I mean.
yeah, he's fine. Oh, they're getting I think this crop of signings is very exciting for Kiel. Like the Kuster and Markutz are players that have developed elsewhere and are ready to take on the biggest level, and then Justice Fischer as well. Finally, that's been what Kiel have needed for quite a while. He was the anointed, prince to take over the Wiencheck Beckler crown, and I think he will be very, very good for them in the future. So the Kiel are there. They've had to suffer. Hopefully, we start seeing some of the success that they're due.
Well, they're not there in the EHF Champions League men draw, which was made this morning over in Vienna. New format for the competition, which we have spoken about before, but a quick reminder, the competition on the men's side only has been expanded from 16 to 24 teams, 6 groups of 4 teams each, the top 2 in each group moving on to a main round, which will be 2 groups of 6. The bottom 2 teams in each group will continue their European adventure in the European League. We can maybe talk about that more when the European League draw is made, but that's going to be one hell of a tournament when you consider that half of these teams in the Champions League will be dropping down to that level. So 6 groups. I'll run through them super quick, and then I want to get your quick take on them, which groups jump out to you, Alex. So Group A, Veszprém, Berlin, Porto, and Partizan from Belgrade. Group B, Nantes, Melsungen, Płock, and Vardar. Group C, Aalborg, Paris Saint-Germain, Zagreb, and Celje. Group D, Sporting, Szeged, Georgi, and Kristianstad. The Swedish team joining the top flight again. Group E, Barca, Montpellier, Dinamo Bucuresti, and Aarhus, or Skanderborg Aarhus. And Group F, then Magdeburg, Kielce, Kolstad, and Kriens Lucerne. First impressions.
This is competitive, isn't it? Like, each group looks fun. Like, there's going to be a battle for second, third, and fourth in a lot of these. I think the Group B with Nantes, Melsungen, Wisla Płock, and Vardar is a nice one. A couple of generations there.
Proper European League main round there, but in Champions League form.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The graduated, it could be a Final Four for the European League, but it's actually a Champions League group, which is a nice way to look at it. Then Kolstad continued to always get a tough drawer, getting Kielce and Magdeburg with Kriens Lucerne. They just can't catch a break, but it's nice. This looks like it's going to be a lot more fun. Remind me again, what is the jeopardy you said? So like the bottom 2. If you finish 4th,
only top 2 go through.
Only top 2 go through.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is a real competition, Alex.
Oh no, I was like, I think my brain is in like World Cup mode, like the football World Cup, where I'm like, the third places will qualify and we'll get through.
There'll be no Curacao with a chance to get through in the last day. This is rock and roll stuff here. Third and fourth going to the European League, but only a spot in the next round for the top 2. And the games between the teams that qualify together go through, carry through to the main round.
Round,
so every game is basically important for the top teams as well.
That's good. And which groups combine into the main round? Is A, B, C, and
so A, B, and C, yeah, and then D, E, F.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then the top 4 from each of the main round groups go to the quarterfinals. That's the route to glory. But I agree. I think Group B is you're going to have a lot of home victories there. This is going to be a group that probably goes right down to the wire, top to bottom, and no easy entry to Melsungen, but at the same time it could be worse for them. I don't really feel bad for Kolstad. Like, that's a tough one for them. Nice to have Montpellier back in the mix as well. I think that not a big surprise to have a third French team in there, but that's a nice group with Skanderborg Aarhus in there. Georgi, I think, will be a nice team to see as well. Manuel Zender and Mitton in there. They made a few big moves over the summer. I think we'll probably look at them a bit more, but they'll have a proper Champions League team as well. And Partizan from Belgrade, that can't wait to see them welcome Matthias Gietzel into that into the heat of the arena there. All right, I've got one more question for you before we go. Have you played Draft Pivot yet?
Oh yeah, I have. I
have to give this a mention now.
It's incredible.
Incredible stuff. One of our members on Discord, for everyone who follows us and supports us on patreon.com/handball hour. RDG is the username for the person who created draftpivot.com. And this is a real, I think, social media trend over the last couple of weeks in basketball in particular, trying to create, with historic and current rosters, an unbeatable team. And now you can try and do the same in handball with the Bundesliga and with the Champions League. Both really good. So go to draftpivot.com and play that. I told some people about it at the beach handball tournament I was at, and then they were just obsessed for the whole weekend. You too can be sitting on your toilet and seeing if you can be unbeaten champions of the Bundesliga.
Yeah, it's great fun. I played the Premier League one quite a lot, but this one, incredible work.
Yeah,
to spin this up, amazing that it was born in our Discord. So that is the beauty of our handball community there. And it was fun. I've won the league a couple of times. I haven't got the perfect score yet.
No, same here. And won the Champions League for the first time last time. So yeah, go play the game.
With that, we'll leave it. Thank you all for joining. Thank you to Björn Pazen. Oh, and thank you to Filip Jicha.
Goodbye.